All right. Had to reset the stream. All right, we good. We good. We good. We good. Everything is good. Oh boy. All right. Cash.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a channel called Jesus Freak 777. Needless to say, this is a bit of low-hanging fruit, but this guy does say some rather radical things in his video, most namely that you can't be a good and moral person unless you praise God. And apparently this is supposed to convince us to believe in God and worship Him. So if you're interested in finding out why you should worship and praise that God dick, then please stay tuned.
Hello everyone. Despite my...
You have to praise God in order to be a decent and moral person. I don't think that's the truth at all. Cashman, are you religious? Do you believe in God? So, wait a minute. I asked you two questions. My bad. So, first I asked, are you religious? And then I asked if you believe in God, because you don't have to be religious to believe in God. So, is that yeah for both of those questions, or is it just yes for one of those questions? My man said yeah. Yeah, for the second one. Now, so you're not religious, but you do believe in God. So, where did you acquire your God belief? Did you just stumble across some information one day and say, hey, that sounds pretty reasonable. I think I should believe in that. Or did someone tell you, hey, this is God and you should believe in that? Yo, if you have a church, so but you said you're not religious. But normally a church is a religious institution. So if you're not religious but you believe in God and you got your God belief from a church, so you left the religion but you kept the God. Interesting. So why did you stop going to church but still continue to believe in God from the church that taught you to believe in God? And yeah, I was saying if you have the Clubhouse app, download the Clubhouse app, set up a little profile real quick, and I have a live chat room going on right now if you want to talk and not type the whole time. Talking is easier. I was a kid then. Yeah, so you were indoctrinated as a child to believe in God by going to church, and for some reason you felt like going to church isn't as valuable as you thought it was when you were a kid, but still believing in God is valuable, and so you kept that. I went to church as a kid too, and my grandmother was a preacher, and she raised me. I was raised by a preacher who had her own church. I could never ever miss church. I could never skip any church service or anything about church. I couldn't get away from it, period. But when I left the church, I didn't keep the God concept. I left all of it. Even though it was taught to me by the family member who actually raised me and taught me everything else. She taught me how to cook, how to clean, how to wash, how to sew, how to garden, how to talk respectfully to adults, how to be a gentleman. And she taught me how to pray and to believe in God. And, she taught me a lot of stuff. But when I left the church, I left that part with it. Word up. I say I was heavily indoctrinated as a child into the church. But for me, it just did not seem logical. It didn't seem logical at all to me, even as a child. And something about going to church just didn't seem logical to you. That's why you don't go to church anymore, and you still believe in God. So you figured it, oh, God knows my heart. God knows I'm a good person, and I have a personal relationship with God, and so God doesn't mind if I don't go to church. Is that how you rationalize it with yourself? Because most people go to church, and the Bible talks about fellowshipping in the church, but then it says, the body is a temple, and God is wherever your heart is at. It's so confusing. It really is. So, it confuses me so much. I just choose not to. You can heat up your food while you're playing video games. That shit is crazy. But it's gonna be like, that's just a marketing ploy. They probably make like a handful of those shits, and it's basically a high-powered PC with a microwave built onto it. That's all that shit is, man. It's a fucking PC with a microwave on it. It looks weird as shit. The whole concept is weird. Even the company that, like, why is the chicken place putting that shit out? But oh well. Some people are gonna get that shit just to say I have the KFC console. You know what I'm saying? They just brought an expensive ass computer with a KFC design on it that they can heat their chicken up in. Those shit's probably be like $1,500 or some shit. Watch. I guarantee you. If it's less than $1,500, I'll be surprised. Honestly. Like I said, it's just a high-powered gaming PC. There's nothing really special about it. They're not gonna like have a studio making games for it. You know, they're not gonna have, you know, KFC studios producing content for that shit. It's just gonna be any game you can get on Steam or Stadia or whatever dumb shit like that. Yeah, man, just eat the fucking chicken, bro. That's all you gotta do, man. Eat the chicken, man.
Strong faith. There are times when I occasionally understand the appeal of atheism. Those moments usually happen during my prayer life. Let me explain. I tend to be very analytical. People have accused me of overthinking things, and I usually jokingly say, no, people are underthinking things. And I think that's kind of true. People do underthink things. Whenever I go into prayer, usually if I'm asking for forgiveness, I start thinking things like, am I really sorry? Did I do that thing intentionally? Why did I do it? Will I do it again? Do I really want to stop doing it? And these thoughts, they cloud my mind, and I'm going through this mental progression.
Okay, so you're tasked with normal things that everybody kind of goes through every day. I guess what you're trying to lay out here is that you're a normal person. Continue.
And I believe it's maybe the good Lord's way of keeping me honest, or maybe it's some type of self-flagellation of chastising myself by, you know, recognizing that I'm just probably never going to stop doing some of the stupid stuff that I do.
So basically, you're providing yourself with a false dichotomy of either, well, it's God doing it, or I'm just punishing myself, which I'm not going to kink shame. Some people like the self-flagellation deal.
It'd be stressful. I usually try to end my prayer with, dear God, you know who I am. You created me. You know my weaknesses. You know my positives. Exploit my however you can to make me a better person.
Wait, did you just end? You said that you end your prayer with telling God, hey, I know you exploit my weaknesses, but ultimately I also know it's for my own good. This is like Stockholm Syndrome turned up to 11 right here, except for, you know, religion and God.
Do whatever you need to do to correct my bad behavior. And I just try to humble myself and recognize that I'm a very flawed human being. I'm never going to live up to his standards. But I do recognize that he wants me to continue trying.
You see, this is the one thing that really bothered me as a Christian, was living up to the impossible standard of being a perfect being like God and or Jesus. That right there put a lot of undue pressure on me as a Christian. And that's one of the things that was really heavy on me that lifted once I realized that this God probably, most likely, doesn't exist. So I didn't have to worry about being a perfect being. Yes, we are all flawed, but that's okay. That's kind of what it means to be human, is to be flawed. We're not perfect. And I think that it's very emotionally abusive and toxic to require somebody to try to be perfect. But also, please, for anybody out there that is religious, don't depend on God to correct your bad behavior. It should be you that corrects your bad behavior if you determine what you're doing to be bad. It's up to you.
So that's what I'm going to do. But it's those moments of struggling, trying to find a balance of humility and confidence. I mean, it's hard to go into prayer and be all like, dear God, I know you've saved me, and I know you're so merciful, and not reminding myself or being reminded that I don't deserve that grace and mercy that I have.
What? First of all, religion is teaching you that you don't deserve this grace and mercy that religious people think they have. Religion, Christianity, teaches you that God gives you this grace and mercy even though you don't deserve it. I feel like that kind of subverts you a little bit into making you think that you're this horrible fucking person when you're really not.
It's hard to find that balance. And I start thinking, man, atheists really have it easy. They can just live life thinking, hey, as long as I'm a pretty good person, I'm all right. I don't hurt nobody, so I'm a good person.
Hi.
Okay. I mean, this is a little bit of a left turn here from your, like, existential crisis while praying to God, but, I mean, yeah, atheists don't have to worry about being perfect, so I guess in that sense, we do have it a little bit easier, I guess, but I honestly don't think that anybody should try to be perfect. I still struggle with that on a daily basis, not being perfect or making mistakes, and I don't know if that stems from, like, my religious background, because I really wasn't all that deep into the faith, for most of my life. It could have subconsciously been there. It could have been subconsciously planted that I have to be perfect in order to be a good person. And I feel like this highlights the toxicity and the abusiveness of religion in general.
Reminds me of the old expression that someone said, I'll paraphrase it, that if you were to mercilessly shoot your grandmother at 500 yards, one could say that you're a good shot, but they probably wouldn't say that you're a good person.
Okay. What does this have to do with the discussion that we're having? I have no idea where this factors in. Maybe you'll explain? Even in your analogy, it doesn't make sense. You could shoot your grandmother from 500 yards away, but they wouldn't say you were a good person? I don't know. I mean, it kind of depends on how much of a dick that grandmother was. I mean, if she was like near Hitler status, you might be a good person. It kind of depends on the situation. If it's just my grandmother from 500 yards away, yeah, I wouldn't be a good person for doing that. You're a good shot, but you're a bad person. I don't understand where you're going with this.
Good is so subjective, and when we push God out of the equation, we really realize that you can live just about any type of life and ultimately justify your actions as good or not. Or let's say you just live life and you don't really steal, kill, rape, and such. You could say, well, I've been a pretty good person.
Well, yeah, I would say that if you live that kind of life currently right now, you would be seen as a good person. But at different points in history and in different societies, all of those things wouldn't necessarily be required for you to be a good person. I feel like you're kind of touching on subjective morality here. Like everybody can determine what is good and what is bad. You seem to have an issue with the subjectivity of morality. And I agree that everybody can form their own moral foundations and they can make their own moral judgments on actions that are performed. They can even self-reflect and judge whether their actions are morally good or bad or whatever. But I really feel like you're just ultimately having an issue with the fact that morality is subjective, but you feel like you need some absolute foundation for morality in which to judge things by. You don't need that, and in fact, we've never had that, not even in Christianity. There's never been an absolute moral foundation in Christianity because it's all subjective and it changes over time. I think that your main issue here is the fact that thinking about how atheists can still morally justify actions or more.
He said, man, too much. I got a stove at home. It's gonna cost $500. The KFC machine. That shit gonna be more than $500, bro. But I mean, who are they marketing this thing for? I mean, we're sitting here talking about it because it's picking up hype. I mean, I read about it like a month ago, 2 months ago or something. But okay, KFC, you got people talking about this shit. But I mean, who's gonna buy it? Is it gonna be like a giveaway for customers? You can win a prize, like the McDonald's Monopoly game or something. So if you order a certain value meal, you get a scratch off sticker on your cup or something where you may win the KFC machine, KFC gaming console machine, or I don't know, like, because this shit ain't gonna be like, I mean, what? You're gonna go to KFC.com and order your Steam machine from up there? Next thing, I'm just gonna make the George Foreman handheld. You can walk around and heat up your hot pockets while you play Grand Theft Auto. I'm saying shit gotta be handheld, man. People on the go nowadays, you know what I'm saying? The George Foreman handheld gaming console. You know what I'm saying? When you got the munchies on the train. You gotta start thinking outside the box, man. Outside the box of chicken. But I'm saying though, once again, who are they marketing this thing for? You gotta have a market for this shit. I mean, it's all the way in development. They got prototype images already circulating. They got the specs for the hardware. Okay. Now, who gonna buy this shit? Is what I want to know. Cause I'm a gamer, and there's a chance like when they're readily available, I may get the PS5 and the new Xbox. Cause I like playing video games. I don't know if I'm gonna buy the KFC Steam machine. Keep my biscuits warm. You feel me?
Judge actions to be good or bad. I feel like this is kind of breaching that whole, well, is there absolute morality thing? Like, I feel like this is really causing you to think about that, maybe.
What about all those things that you didn't do, like glorifying God, trusting in Him, believing in Him, honoring the Sabbath day, not taking His name in vain, or making idols and such? Those things are sinful.
Okay, those things are sinful to you because your Bible says they're sinful. But all of those things that you listed are not morally good or morally bad. Well, on face value, they're not. Like if you think that it's glorifying God to like genocide an entire population of people, then that would be bad. But just in a general speaking terms, as you're doing here in this video, I don't see those as morally good or bad. So I don't find them to be connected to the previous requirements for being a morally good person that you laid on the atheist. I feel like those are actual morally good and bad things, while yours is very specific to your religion. In your religion, it says to be morally good means to do all of these things first, and, then don't, steal property like your neighbor's wife and shit. Don't murder your neighbor. But also, it's perfectly fine for you to, take foreigners and enslave them. That's also a morally good thing that the Bible teaches about. So just keep that in mind.
When you don't have God in your life, you don't believe in God, that doesn't mean that you're no longer bound to them. You're still expected to live by God's standards. Your rejection of him doesn't mean that he stops existing.
I think the fuck not, you trick ass bitch.
If God were to exist, me not believing in him doesn't cause him to cease to exist. But also I would say that I'm no more bound to your God's laws than a Muslim is bound to your specific definition of God's laws. I guess I just don't understand what you're trying to say here. You're trying to say that whether or not an atheist believes in God, I guess maybe God has the moral law written on their hearts, and so they end up having to follow God's laws anyways. To me, it just sounds like a lot of different gymnastics in order to get back around to, well, atheists still believe in God. They just reject him in some kind of sense. Like they hate God or some kind of thing like that.
It's kind of like saying to the police officer, I don't accept your traffic rules. Doesn't matter whether you accept them or not, they're there. You have to obey and abide by them.
I would agree, but I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect here in comparing God to a police officer. Because the police officer actually comes to you and is like, hey, stop that shit, or I'll take your ass to jail. Or if you've done something horrible enough, they'll just immediately take your ass to jail. Whereas God, he chooses to wait until you die before he issues any kind of judgment. Well, at least according to Christianity. So I guess I just don't understand this comparison of God to a police officer. For one thing, a police officer would also punish you for the bad deeds that you did. In a similar fashion, if I were to just pray to the judge, maybe, I guess, or pray to somebody in the legal system and ask for forgiveness and say, I'm so sorry, I won't do it again. I definitely believe in our legal system. I will right the wrongs that I have done and I will never do them again. Do I just get off scot-free? Regardless of the crime that I've committed? Because that's what Christianity teaches. Regardless of the crime that you commit, all you have to do is give your life to Jesus and ask for forgiveness and live a Christian life. So, and you can do that multiple times, by the way, because as we started off with this video, humans are flawed. Just because you make a mistake doesn't mean that Jesus only hands out one forgiveness token, right? You can ask for forgiveness over and over and over, technically, in the Christian religion. Well, Protestant Christian religions, Catholics, you still have to be, do good works and everything like that. I don't know. I'd have to talk to somebody about the Catholicism as, where it comes in with repeat offenses and all this other shit. You would think the Catholics would be very lenient about that with how they are about pedophiles, but, it could be different for the lower class citizens. But in any case, this analogy really doesn't work when you consider the theology of Christianity and then how our justice system works.
And if you don't, there will be penalties. So, being the type of person I am, I can understand how being an atheist can give you a reprieve from stress. It can make you feel as though, okay, I'm not so bad. And
no, God, please, no, no, no.
No, I mean, I feel like I'm not bad at all. I don't feel like I'm a bad person. I don't do all of those things that you listed before, but I also do things that are morally good. So I don't know. I feel like this kind of highlights how you still see humans, even without a God, as bad. Just inherently and initially bad. And then you have to constantly throughout your life do good deeds to overcome how shitty of a fucking organism you are.
While it may be tempting for the briefest of moments, I'm also analytical enough to think I'm not trading an eternity for a short-term bit of happiness.
Okay, so for you, you think there's an eternity. Objectively, outside of that, we don't have any evidence that suggests that there is an eternity waiting for us afterwards. So really, atheists are just realizing that there is no evidence for an afterlife, and so there is no afterlife, as far as we can tell. So we're not really losing anything. Regardless of whether or not there is an afterlife, the part about being an atheist is just not being convinced that a God does exist, regardless of what kind of rewards or punishments exist after this life. You have a very specific definition of God. But what if that definition of God isn't the true, like the absolutely true definition of whatever deity may exist? For you, there are rewards and punishments after this life. But in actuality, that is just one potential answer amongst a plethora of different answers. How do you know that you're right? How do you know that Muslims are wrong? How do you know that other religions that have heaven and hell concepts are wrong? I really don't think that you'd be able to distinguish yours from others.
That'd be like saying somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I'll put you in prison for a month, and then after the month, I'll give you $1 billion. Or we can give you $1 billion for a month, and then after the month goes by, we'll put you in prison for the rest of your life. No one would take that.
I feel like this is a bit of a ridiculous thing. For one thing, it kind of highlights how you see this life. Do you really see this life as a prison? I don't see this life as a prison. In fact, if anything, I feel so much better about my life and the prospects that I have in my life once I became an atheist. I didn't, as a Christian, see this life as like a prison or anything like that. But also in this analogy, I guess, in this question, it kind of seems like it would be better represented by saying, hey, we'll give you $1 billion now, and then we may or may not put you in prison for the rest of your life. Like rest of eternity. Not rest of your life, rest of eternity. It may or may not be there, but considering that we don't have any eternal prisons, we don't have any evidence to suggest that we've recently built an eternal prison, it kind of seems like getting the $1 billion for that month or whatever in the fuck seems like the better deal. Because without any kind of evidence that there is this eternal prison that exists, I feel like it's quite irrational and illogical to assume that it does exist. But also, I wouldn't, in that particular want $1 billion. Honestly, if they were like, I'll give you $1 billion, it's like, oh, well, I just need like 40 million to like live the rest of my life on, and then I'll just give the rest to charity or something like that. You really don't need $1 billion.
You would say no one would think of the short term instead of the long term. Well, how do you explain people that have millions and millions of dollars and they squander it? Athletes, celebrities, lottery winners, because they focused on the short term. I feel good now. Next thing you know, 5 years later, 10 years later, they're broke as broke can be, wondering what happened. A lot of people think short term. Well, it feels good now is what they chase after.
I really don't see this life as short term, because you're comparing all of this to the entirety of one's life and then the afterlife afterwards, which is eternal. And you're proclaiming that this life is the short term. And I don't know about you, but I've been around, 37 years? This hasn't seemed to be short-term shit, right? This is definitely, as far as we're concerned in our human experience, this is not a short-term thing. The fact is that squandering this life away for this eternal thing that could or could not exist afterwards, I think is short-sighted, because what you're basically doing is limiting your own happiness, limiting the fulfillment of your life to the fullest extent. And I know a lot of Christians would hear that and think, oh, free will, I can just do whatever I want to, strip naked, run down the road and rob a blind lady or something like that, and woo kind of thing is what they kind of think whenever you say that. But living your life to the fullest, getting the most out of life, I would hope that most people would want that. And I think that it's true that some Christians feel like they're getting the most out of life by being Christian, praising God, and all this other stuff. But I don't know. from the other side of it, being that I don't do that, I feel like not spending a lot of my life praising a God that literally has no good evidence to support that he even exists, with no tangible way to determine whether or not he has an effect on our reality. I feel like not wasting that time has allowed me to grow in a lot of different areas.
And I believe that atheists are doing the same thing. They're worried about the short term. They're not worried about the long term. They're not worried about eternity.
Seriously, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, yeah, because we don't believe in an eternity. There's nothing to suggest that it exists, so why should we worry about that? Also, we're not worried about the short term. We're just worried about the life that we have. I mean, why are you painting this as a bad thing? It's like you're painting us not taking this life for granted as being a bad thing, and that it's a good thing to take this life for granted. I kind of feel like subtly that's what he's kind of doing here.
I just wanted to give you a reminder to consider your eternity. Do not, for a moment, sacrifice that. Believe in God. Accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior.
Suck that Jesus dick. Go to Sunday school. Learn the Bible. And then remember why you became an atheist in the first place. Because the God of the Bible's a dick. He only wants you to worship his ass. He'll kill you in an instant if you don't please him correctly. And Jesus did not have to die on the cross and guilt us into sucking his dick.
Live with him for all of eternity. Yeah, your life will be a little bit more complicated. You'll struggle to find a balance between humility and confidence and obedience and such.
Wait, okay, for one thing, the fact that you're painting this obedience to this God that we don't even know exists as a good thing is just phenomenal to me, because I even as a kid, like, I was obedient to my parents most of the time. As I got older, I wasn't so much, but I'm just saying that, like, I feel like obedience to something tangible is more reasonable. But then you try to suggest that we don't have humility and confidence, because you say that you'll struggle to find a balance between these things. That kind of seems like you're saying that atheists don't have a balance between humility and confidence, or that we don't have humility or we don't have confidence or something like that. I don't know. I kind of feel like you're subtly pointing these things out, and it kind of makes you look like an arrogant prick.
But at the end of the day, the struggle, the difficulties will be greatly worth it. And don't get me wrong, it's not all bad. There's a tremendous amount of peace and comfort in knowing that God has your back and that he loves you. And that reward is way, way better than you'll ever imagine.
Oh, really? What reward is that? Because last time I checked during this whole pandemic thing, God hadn't done shit. Some of his most ardent believers who fully believed in him, fully believed that he had their back, and they ended up getting COVID and dying. What kind of message does that say to them? What is your answer for God seemingly being non-existent to those people who are some of his most devout followers that you would think that would have it in good with God, yet God leaves them hanging? This is one of the inconsistencies with the religious faith that I've really noticed over the past year, is that they think that God has their back, or that praising God or being covered in the blood of Jesus is going to protect them. And then they still get COVID, they still potentially die. And I find that to be incredibly sad.
It'd be kind of like saying you won the lottery, but now you have to hire an accountant to help you manage your money. Oh, how stressful is that? Well, it's the good of having all that outweighs the stress. So whatever stress that I have, being a Christian is greatly outweighed. I pray that you have a great day. I pray that you trust in God as your Lord and Savior. Don't be tempted to take this short term, the short bit of happiness, not having to deal with the stresses. Love God, surrender to him, and find true happiness. Thanks for watching. God bless.
So again, just to reiterate, this life is not short term, but it is also the only life you get. So I'm not taking anything for granted. We don't know that there's an afterlife or not. All evidence currently suggests that there is no So why should I live for some kind of afterlife that I could not know anything about, including whether or not it actually exists? To kind of imply that atheists are just devoid of stress is a bit short-sighted too, because we do have a monumental amount of stress that gets laid upon us, not only from like friends and family, but just in our society in general. We are stressed out because we are constantly being told that you have to be a believer in God in order to, be a good person. Or you can't have morality or make moral judgments unless you believe in God. And this is very stressful, honest, because these are not just randos on the street that are saying it. These are our brothers and sisters and family members that are telling us these things. I get that it's a bit stressful, being a Christian and trying to be as perfect as you can be, being as quote-unquote godly as you can be. But in a more real sense, atheists are also under a lot of stress that are caused by religious people that are trying to force them to conform to what they think it means to be a perfect person. And I don't know, that kind of grinds my gears. Thank you guys for joining today on this quick video about this guy, his problem with atheism and atheists and going for the short-term happiness. I'm going to live my life to the fullest, and I hope that all of you live your lives to the fullest too, regardless of your religious persuasions. Thank you for joining me today. If you will, please leave a comment down below with what you thought about this guy's video. Let me know down below in the comments. And while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.
Next pillow. Why do we make our pillow in the shape of a cube? I'll tell you. The problem with pillows is that you're trying to fit a round peg into a...
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Today we're going to be going through a video where this Christian lays out his argument against atheism. He's got 5 different points as to how atheism fails to be a good explanation for anything. For one thing, atheism doesn't attempt to explain anything other than what a person doesn't believe. To suggest that there needs to be evidence for atheism, the only real evidence that you can provide is whether or not you actually don't believe in a God. So we're going to take a look at this Christian's evidence against atheism and why we should be Christian. If you're interested in this kind of bullshit, then please stay tuned.
Hey guys, this is Daniel. I just wanted to make this video real quick to kind of discuss what we're going to be going through in this next video with the topic of atheism. Now, I know atheism is more of a sensitive topic, and I want you to know that. I've met many people who are atheists, and in fact, many of my friends are atheists, and I've had discussions with them, and that's where a lot of my material came for this next video. So I want you to understand that when we discuss who atheists are or why some people may choose to be atheists, it's not out of a hateful or spiteful kind of attitude when I explain this. This is more of, if atheism, this particular worldview, is true, then these are the implications of atheism and how it could affect the environment, how could it affect the world, how could it affect absolutely everything. So I just want to say that right before we go into this video. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
All right. Hi, Daniel. How you doing? First off, I want to point out how he says that the information or the arguments that he is going to be going through are the result of him talking to atheists about why they're atheists or why they don't believe in God. So keep that in mind while you're watching this video. I also want to touch on the fact that atheism is not a worldview. Atheism is just simply not believing in a God. For whatever reason, probably most atheists out there don't believe in a God because there's not enough evidence to suggest that a God exists. So therefore, they're unconvinced that a God exists. I know at least that's my position, so I can really only speak for why I'm not a theist or why I am an atheist. But he said that he's going to tell us how this worldview affects the environment, affects the world, just affects everything. So keep all these things in mind while we go through his video. Spoiler alert, I don't think that he actually understood anything that the atheists were telling him.
Hey guys, I'm Daniel Hill, and today we're going to be going further into why we believe in Christianity over every other worldview. So, with that, we're going to discuss atheism. Atheism is the disbelief or the lack of belief in the existence of God or gods. There are different forms of atheism. Some are naturalists, meaning that everything came into being through natural causes. Some are atheists, so that they can live however they want. A good example of this is from Frank Turek, who often goes to many college campuses, and he'll ask students, if you knew that Jesus was real and that he was the Lord of your life, would you choose to follow him? And quite often, he said that they will say no.
Well, yes, that's because the majority of atheists have read the Bible, and they know that the God of the Bible, including Jesus, are just really big dicks. So, no, I would not follow and submit myself to Jesus if he were real. Or God, Yahweh, the Abrahamic God. If that jackass were real, no, I definitely would not bow down and follow him. But as far as atheism goes, the only pertinent thing is whether or not I recognize his existence. If anybody were to be able to sufficiently prove that this Yahweh God actually existed, then I would acknowledge that he existed.
I definitely flip him a bird, call him a dick.
But I would at least acknowledge that he existed. This does not mean that I just want to live my life the way that I want to live it, or as most Christians see it, I just want to sin, therefore I'm an atheist. Because I wouldn't be an atheist at the point of me flipping God the bird and telling him to fuck off. I would definitely acknowledge his existence. So I would no longer be an atheist at that point. I would be a theist. I just wouldn't submit myself to God. Of course, all of this is assuming that your particular definition of God is the true definition. We could go into like the different definitions that exist between the denominations, because each denomination would have their own definition of God, essentially. So which one is correct? Is the Baptist version of God correct? Is the New Independent Fundamental Baptist version of God correct? Is the Presbyterian God correct? Technically, they're all the same God, but they all have different definitions, at least different enough to where you have to create a new denomination. The way I see it, you still have a long road ahead of you to even get to the point where I'm acknowledging whether or not God exists.
So, let's look at those 4 questions that we discussed earlier. Origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. And let's apply those to atheism. So, origin. If naturalism or atheism was true, then we are simply here by chance. Darwinianism or macroevolution. And life originated from a single-cell organism that eventually evolved over billions of years to the world that we know today.
Okay, so I remember him bringing up the whole naturalist, atheists, and all this other stuff. From what I can tell, most people are naturalists until it comes to a point where they feel like God is needed to explain something. Every single thing that has happened in the past has eventually been explained through a natural process. So it's not irrational or illogical to assume that nature causes things to happen. We have yet to prove that a supernatural entity is required in order for anything in this reality to happen. Even in the cases where something miraculously happens, like someone miraculously heals or something like that, we do not have any supporting evidence to suggest that a supernatural God suspended the natural order of reality in order for that thing to happen. All of these miraculous events in the past have eventually been explained through natural means. And then he went on to shit-talk evolution, which has literally nothing to do with atheism or whether or not a God exists. There are theistic evolutionists out there. So you're bringing up evolution other than the fact that you're listening to fucking Frank Turek, who often conflates evolution with the existence of God? It just seems like you're listening to all of the most generic and horrible apologists out there that have the worst arguments to believe in God.
Now, scientific evidence overwhelmingly confirms that the universe exploded into being out of nothing.
No, that's not what science says. Science would say that the universe inflated in a very short time that seems near instantaneously, and not out of nothing, at least not the nothing that you're thinking about. The nothing that you're referencing still has an electrical charge, so is still something. But the nothing that you're thinking about is absolutely nothing, which doesn't exist in reality. Space, absent of just every single thing, not even an electrical charge, is only hypothetical and cannot be actualized in reality. The nothing that actually exists still has something in it. So it's not from nothing as you would think of it, it's still from something. But it's still a better explanation than God spouting some magical incantation to create the entire universe out of literally nothing.
And at one point in the universe. But, according to the atheist, that explosion came from nothing and by chance created everything in perfect order.
Perfect order? I kind of feel like this is what he thinks atheists say the Big Bang was.
Smoke weed every day.
That is not what happens. You saying that atheists claim that the universe exploded into perfect order makes me think of that clip. And if that's what you're thinking, that's not at all what atheists claim, nor scientists. For one thing, the beginning of the universe has literally nothing to do with atheism or not being convinced by God. I feel like apologists have turned it into an argument for God, and us using science to refute your logical leap to God existing is not exactly connected to atheism necessarily. It's just using the information that we have on hand to refute your bad arguments. So no, you're completely wrong about what atheists say about the Big Bang.
Even Fred Hoyle, who's an atheist and a British mathematician and astronomer, discusses the chances of this happening when saying that the Big Bang happening and evolution occurring in perfect order and the world we know is the same chances of a tornado going through Kansas and creating a Boeing 747.
Wait, who ain't they?
Wow. You know, I'm really tired of this whole tornado through a junkyard creating an airplane thing. It's really tired and it's really old, and it's kind of just a wow moment that this is still being used. Yes, it is highly improbable that events would have played out the way that they played out. But just because you can provide big numbers or low probabilities does not mean that it can't happen, because those low probabilities are not zero. Unless you tell me that the probability of all of this happening is zero, a big old goose egg, then there's still a chance. And given pigeonhole theory, which says given a big enough data set, you will 100% have something happening at least once. And if it can happen once, then it can definitely happen a second time. Just take, for instance, the Earth forming the way that it did so that it can support life. Currently, there are about 40 billion planets that could support life in our galaxy alone. Is there a low probability that a planet would support life? Yes, but that low probability, given a big enough data set, will produce a lot of different instances of it happening. Also, he's kind of shitting on the entire idea that all of this just happened by chance. I don't see a negative thing about it just happening by chance. Like, just by chance, everything played out to where we're here today. Yeah, I don't see how that diminishes our lives. I don't see how that diminishes, the fact that we're here. I don't see how this is an argument against anything other than an appeal to emotion. Because you want to feel important to somebody or something. It just seems like saying that, oh, we're just here by chance. There's no purpose behind us being here. Okay? Yeah, there's no purpose. So what?
Or even the simplest life form contains information equivalent to 1,000 encyclopedias. Atheists believe this is a non-natural force created this. If atheism is true, then we simply originated by chance.
Okay, so here's the thing. Earlier he was talking about the tornado through the junkyard creating the airplane, and now he's talking about evolution and how DNA can hold so much information and all this other stuff. He paints this as being totally irrational to believe that it came about naturally. But the thing is that when comparing the junkyard to evolution and the DNA and its information to to probability that it would be created naturally. What he doesn't understand is that we have natural processes that lead us to those conclusions. Like comparing evolution to a tornado through a junkyard creating an airplane. We don't have any natural processes that would explain an airplane coming together, like it would be required to come together in the instance of a tornado through a junkyard. We don't have any natural processes that would explain that, but we do have natural processes for evolution. We do have natural processes for how DNA can store as much information as it does. We have natural explanations for these things, and therefore do not need a supernatural deity to do it for us. The supernatural deity explanation is not an explanation at all. It's like a placeholder, just waiting to be discovered. The only thing is that we've already discovered these processes. We know these processes. It's just that Christians, like this guy right here, as well as Frank Turek and anybody else that spouts off the same talking points as Frank Turek, they don't want to admit that we have the information that guides us to these natural conclusions.
Our world and universe work in perfect sync, and our bodies are wonderfully designed in perfect order.
Perfectly in sync? Are you fucking serious? Our bodies are perfectly designed? Are you fucking shitting me right now? There are kids being born right now that have bone cancer. There are kids with genetic diseases that are so horrible that I don't even want to fathom them, right? We got kids that are homeless, that live in poverty. We got a political party out there that thinks that Jews destroyed California with a Jew laser from space. That's an example of how irrational like our brains can be and are therefore not perfect in any kind of sense. It amazes me how these Christians think that our bodies are perfectly designed, when our bodies fail all the time. We have vestigial parts all in us, not just in us, but in other animals too, like whales with their non-functioning leg bones and shit. Those kinds of things. How is any of this perfectly designed? As an engineer myself, that's a pretty shitty fucking design. I'm not going to design a modern car with both modern headlights and archaic candle-lit lamps on the front end of the car. Like, that's just ridiculous. But that's essentially what God has done for some organisms on this planet. Also, if this planet was perfectly created, why do we have such devastating natural disasters? It kind of seems like God created a doom planet that's gonna kill us all.
Did this happen by chance, or was it by an ultimate designer?
Oh no, all of this shit definitely screams chance. Like, the natural processes that go into shaping organisms on this planet definitely suggest that there was no guiding hand to it. It definitely all just sort of happened by chance.
Think of a watch. If you see a watch lying on the ground, do you believe it originated by chance, or did someone create that watch and drop it on the ground? The same can be said about our universe, DNA, and so on and so forth.
Serious?
Oh God, you quite literally use the watchmaker argument. This is such a bad argument. There's obviously no natural process that goes into creating a watch without some kind of guiding hand as, humans. Comparing that to the universe or to the earth or to evolution or anything like that, it's just fucking ridiculous. We have natural processes to explain how the universe formed, how galaxies formed, how suns formed, how planets form. We have natural processes to explain all of those things. Yet we have no natural process to tell us why a Timex appeared on a beach. So it's just so ridiculous for you to even attempt to compare a watch to anything else that was naturally produced.
Everything works in perfect order, and it points to a perfect creator.
Everything works in a perfect order? Really? I don't see everything working in a perfect order. I see natural forces interacting with each other that end up producing other natural effects, but that's hardly perfect. And no, none of this points to a perfect God, even if those things were perfect. This is called a logical leap to God, and it's something that I'm just really fucking tired of.
Next is meaning. If atheism is true, then there really is no God, there are no morals, no right or wrong, and there's no purpose to life.
Are you fucking serious right now? No. If there's no God that exists, and that's the absolute truth of reality, it has nothing to do with any of those fucking things. We still have morality. We are the ones that create morality. We have our own moral foundations. Those moral foundations are shaped by the society that we live in, the time and place that we live in within that society. All of that shapes our own moral foundations, and we each have our own moral foundation. And then life has no meaning to it? Are you fucking serious with that too? We obviously have meaning regardless of whether or not God exists. It's just that to life with God. That is their primary meaning. Their own your shit out in a book.
I don't know if I'm on my speaker right now.
Asking for forgiveness of sins gets you into heaven. So at that point, for that particular type of theology in Christianity, it doesn't matter whether or not you're a good person or a bad person. I guess I really don't see this accountability that Christians generally attribute to their faith concerning Protestant denominations. I find there's no justice in it whatsoever. Now, I'm not sure what type of Christian you are there, Daniel, but it seems to me that maybe your particular type of Christianity probably doesn't provide any kind of like checks and balances for people being good and bad. I don't see a whole hell of a lot of difference. You just add an extra step in there and saying you gotta suck Jesus' dick in order to be forgiven for your sins.
You can choose to be a good person, but again, it's pointless. If atheism, there is no ultimate purpose to life. Next is morality. If atheism is true, then that would also mean that there is no morality. There's no right or wrong.
No, there's still right and wrong. Those are inherently subjective terms that you're using there. I think what you mean is absolute rights and wrongs. And generally, that's what Christians are talking about whenever they are discussing morality, is absolute morality. I would definitely say that we have subjective or relative morality, and relative in the sense of, it's specific to the time and place that we live in, and we can use our own moral foundations to judge other people's moral actions as right or wrong. That's still all inherently subjective. So, no, under atheism, it wouldn't be that morality doesn't exist. It would be that absolute morality doesn't exist. And I really don't think that does exist.
That means that if I was to wrong you, whether it was murder or steal, then I really shouldn't be prosecuted.
Oh, I'm sorry. That took me a second to process, but you realize that those are laws of the land, right? Like, sure, we can make these moral decisions about stealing and all that, but I feel like everything that you listed is subject to nuances of the context. If there's some kind of shortage of food and a guy steals food in order to feed his family, is that morally wrong? No, I would say that that's morally good or neutral. A lot of the things that Christians point out as morally wrong or bad are really just morally neutral or good. So it's not that we shouldn't prosecute people, because we should definitely prosecute people who break the law, but it's about making these moral decisions, and it's all very dependent upon context and your own moral foundation.
As there is no moral law. But we know that through history and every culture, there has been some form of moral law. Scripture discusses this in Romans 2:14 through 15. And it says this: even Gentiles who do not have God's law, written law, show that they know it when they instinctively obey it, even without having heard it. They demonstrate that God's law is written in their hearts, for their own conscience and thoughts either accuse them or tell them that they are doing right.
Well, So what that passage right there is literally pointing out is that societies have general moral foundations. Whenever this group, the Israelites or the Christians, see another group that also thinks that it's wrong to kill a motherfucker in the streets, the Christians are like, oh, so you're stealing from our God in order to have a moral foundation. Or at least that's what modern Christians do. And so it just becomes this baseless claim of, oh, well, they have the God's laws written on their hearts too, when really it's just a common moral foundation. Given that a group of people living in a society, even as big as the United States is now, we have some semblance of a shared moral foundation. Ultimately, we all have our own subjective moral foundations, but we do have this general sense of how to survive in a society. And that includes the shared moral foundation. And that's why these large societies have been successful in the past. Because there's some basic moral foundation that allows for people to live together. But the main point is that is definitely not tied to a God.
With atheism, there is no answer to morality. And the true atheist should have no moral compass.
A true atheist. Now you're trying to gatekeep atheism? What the fuck, man? No. A true atheist is not going to just be absent of morality or have no morality whatsoever. That's just fucking ridiculous to even suggest.
Last is destiny. There is no destiny. In atheism, if we die, as a friend of mine unfortunately put it, the credits simply roll and that's it. We cease to exist.
I'm fine with that. I get that. Because I have no evidence whatsoever to suggest that there is an afterlife. So I don't know why I should believe in an afterlife if there's no evidence of an afterlife. Adding an afterlife tacked on to the end of that kind of diminishes the life that we have now, don't you think? Because this afterlife is infinite, right? It's never ending. And the more that you think about it, the smaller and smaller our time on this earth seems to be. So it really does seem quite pointless, this life on this earth, when we have this eternity afterwards that's supposed to be, awesome as fuck.
So, if Christians, we are wrong about Christianity, we simply die and cease to exist. But
No. Let me stop you right here before you go to the but part, because it's not just that simple. If Christians are wrong, it's not just, oh, you die and cease to exist. This is kind of a Pascal's wager. He's not directly talking about Pascal's wager, but this is a Pascal's wager. Because what if you're wrong? What if Christianity's wrong, but Islam is right? You're still going to hell. What if another religion is correct? Let's say that they have a hell-based religion. You're going to their hell. And then what about other denominations of Christianity? If you're a Presbyterian, but it's really the Catholic God, then are you going to hell? You could be. Presbyterian and Baptist, could you be going to hell? Maybe. You don't know. All right, continue with the but.
If Christianity is true, then every person who did not choose Christ will live in eternity separated from Jesus.
Well, yes. If the Christian God is the true God and the Christian heaven is the one that exists, then yes, we will spend eternity being separated from Jesus. Honestly, I don't want to spend eternity sucking that dick.
Atheism only really answers the first question, but with shaky evidence to back up its claim.
With shaky evidence? I haven't provided any evidence that there's no God. I've simply said that I don't believe a God exists. Nobody has given evidence. I can provide evidence why your God's not real and doesn't exist, because I'm very Gnostic on that particular definition. But, as far as God existing in general, we don't have anything to really... we don't have any evidence that suggests that there is no God. There are some harder atheists out there that feel like they can prove that a God doesn't exist in any kind of capacity, but I'm not a hard atheist. I'm a soft atheist or an agnostic atheist.
Can this worldview really be trusted? In the next video, we'll discuss pantheism and see where the evidence leads. If you want any more information on atheism and the evidence against it, check out the link below.
Well, I do want to thank Daniel today for providing all these really horrible arguments against atheism, because it's the same kind of stuff that we've always heard from all of these apologists. I'm not going to be checking out your link, but I do appreciate you providing some kind of information I don't know. But in any case, I think that you're just woefully misinformed on what atheists claim and what atheists say about certain things. I mean, I don't know who you've been talking to, but it kind of feels to me like you didn't really listen to what they were saying, and it kind of just went over your head a little bit. Because no atheist is going to bring up evolution as proof that God doesn't exist, or the Big Bang that is proof that God doesn't exist, or any of the things that you talked about. And you're just so woefully misinformed on purpose and meaning and morality. It was like a gish gallop of just bad arguments that have been purported by all of the popular apologists. So I would really love to hear what all of y'all think down in the comments. Let me know what you think about his arguments against atheism. And hey, while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.
God, I hate this fucking chair.
Concentration that you're interested in investigating in the future, or do you have any ideas what you are going to do in October, or are you going to just let it find you? What are you thinking about? What is your process right now in this brainstorm phase?
Okay, yeah. So I'm always working on multiple projects at once, right? So like, I'm at the end of one project that's titled Project 20s, which is this portrait series about gentrification, displacement between Detroit and Chicago. So I'm at the end of that, and it's like whenever I get to the end of one project is when I start to get ideas and inspiration for the next. So like that's why I brought up the idea of escapism. So that's the work that I'm pretty sure I'll be working on for the next few years, on top of my alter ego work, which I plan on working on honestly for the rest of my career. Just a more in-depth overview of the A Way to Get Gone, which is the portal work. So there is a film by Sun Ra titled Space is the Place. And if anyone's seen this film, you're probably familiar with the scene where he walks into a community center And all these kids is like, who is you? What did you, like, why are you dressed like that? And he goes into this tangent about how he came to Earth to take black people back home to Mars, because we're not from here. And like, if we were from here, we would be treated as such. We would be treated with respect as with humanity. But because we're not from here, we're treated as animals. So like this, I'm thinking like that idea came to mind. And he also said something. So he also said something like, I come to you as a myth, because that's what we are as black people. We're nothing but a myth. So that line by itself has like clinged on to me like teeth. So I've been thinking about like how can black people exist on Earth. I'm gonna be honest, and this is just like how I was thinking. How can black people exist on this Earth without the presence of whiteness? Because historically it has shown that oftentimes the presence of whiteness is the presence of violence. So how do I get black people away from this presence of violence so that we can truly be liberated, free, and happy? So a lot of this question has been back in my head, and it's drawn me to listening to a lot of music. So again, listening to songwriter Alice Coltrane, Dorothy Ashby. There's a collective of jazz musicians who came out of Detroit. Marcus Graves is one of them. There's a bunch of other jazz musicians, which they're all thinking about this idea of escapism. Then you have Martine Smith's The Afrofuturist Manifesto, which also helped me with this. So like I'm always just thinking that's what I'm really thinking about. So currently I am photographing. Like when I think about all of this, I'm thinking like how can I make this work happen? So currently I'm photographing makeshift portals on land that has significance to the collective black experience. Due to the fact that we are in the middle of the Petitgout Bay, I cannot leave Detroit. So I call it the Petitgout Bay. I call it anything that starts with a P. But because we're in the middle of, Corona, and having to exist and maneuver around this deadly disease, I'm not able to really travel to make the work that I want to make. So I started off with the series here in Detroit. So I'm photographing in spaces that are and or were historically tied to like the collective Detroit Black experience. So one of the photos is at this park and this community that's sorry, I got a fucking call. At this park in this community is called Black Bottom, and Black Bottom during the early 1900s, during the Great Migration, Black Bottom was called that because the soil was so rich, right? So the soil was so rich that a lot of the sharecroppers who moved from the South moved up here to Detroit. They found home in this space, and in which this space they started to harvest and grow and really build a community. And then there's another area called Paradise Valley, which is honestly, it's Detroit's version of Harlem, right? This is where you would go to see all of the jazz, all of the flapper dancers. This is where you would go to, like, drink your booze and see, all of that. However, these two communities were bulldozed through for America's first major highway, that being I-75. I think I'm correct. I think it's 75. That highway was bulldozed through both Paradise Valley and through Black Bottom. So I'm thinking about how this land historically is black, rich and black within culture, within history, within our labor, and like how this land can harness a power for a portal to appear when we need it most, for us to get the fuck away from the presence of whiteness, from the presence of violence. So in my application, when I applied for the residency, I spoke about this project. And I spoke about how Dakar Senegal is where the quote-unquote door of no return is located. It's also Dakar is also an ocean city, so I have access to the ocean. So like thinking about, obviously I started thinking about water and land, and how these two can also even though they're not in America, how they still hold a lot of power and a lot of historical references for black bodies and the collective black experience. So really just interested in really performing these portals, photographing these portals in these spaces. So it's almost as if, like, no matter where you are in the world, you can escape to get away from and get free from the presence of violence, the presence of whiteness. So that's what I'm working on. And while I'm there, I'm working on that. I'll also be doing some field recording. So I have like a Zoom recorder in which I'll be like just recording any sound I hear. Because I'm also, again, always thinking about sound, always listening to music. I'm interested in the interior sound of the portal. So what does it sound like once we as Black people are inside these portals to get that gets us to this other dimension, this other world that's meant only for us, so that's meant only for our liberation. So I'm currently collecting like field recordings. I'm also using sounds from like familiar songs. I've even reached out to a close friend of mine who has like a collection of sound bows and record her sound bows. I'm collaborating with a musician based in LA to also help me with this. I'm also writing a lot about music and about Black liberation. I'm also looking at a lot of films and thinking about bodily gestures that provides Black people with a temporary form of Black freedom or Black liberation. So that's the way that we dance, the way that we sing, the way that we run, the way that we find happiness, and thinking about those as these temporary forms of freedom or temporary forms of liberation. And then lastly, I'm planning on working on a series of mixed media pieces where I'll be using archival images of Black people dancing, almost like collage mixed with the color gold and color black, because the color gold is just a ever-present color within my practice just in general. I'm always using the color gold, no matter what the project is. It's just one of my favorite colors. So yeah, that's what I'll be working on while I'm there. Well, that's one of the projects I'll be working on while I'm there. And then the other project is again my alter ego by the name of Dion. I was just like,
I wanted to know about Dion. I'm gonna ask about Dion in the end. Because I was seeing Dion and I didn't know who Dion was, but yeah, now I get it.
So while I'm there, I also work with Dion, taking photos of Dion and on the compound that the residency will be held at. I'm just interested in like placing Dion in spaces of luxury, and like if you go to the Black Rock Senegal Instagram page, they show the interior of the space, and y'all, that residency, the house, the place that we stay, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. So it gives me the opportunity to place Dion in this space of luxury.
Amazing. To reset the room real quick, this is Black History Month, Day 3, Kehinde Wiley, who is also a photographer like Daryl. And Daryl, there is many similarities to what you're talking about with Kehinde Wiley. I'm sure you obviously see them with this idea of a portal, because when we look at his work, we see ourselves as regal, and that's similar to what you're achieving. And when I think, just to talk about, when I think about when I hear portal, I just think of the cookout. That's the first thing I think about, because not everybody's invited to the cookout, right? So it's the place, So who's invited to the cookout? That just makes me think of that portal. So, hey Q, what would you like to give Kehinde Wiley his flowers on Day 3 of Black History Month? What resonates with you?
Well, I would basically say his color palette, and his approach to how he does what he does. I'm an artist also, I have my own style. My style of art is patent Afro pop, Afrocentric pop art, and trying to see how to say it. Basically, just like I've watched him. I've watched him from the beginning when he was pretty much painting and creating on his own. And now I see he has a staff. Which is really cool. He pretty much creates the concepts, and he have he may fly over to Asia. He'll have a group of people just painting the backdrops, the flowers, and he may have a group of illustrators painting the actual portrait part of the composition. And my thing is style. I'm a self-taught artist. I have a graffiti background. My name Haiku comes from graffiti. you know, fame, trying to bring fame to the name HiQ. You know, I'm from the south side of Chicago, you know, tagging all the trains in the walls and the bus glass and all that, you know. So, you know, I was not formally taught. I didn't go to, I can't give accreditation to any college or institution. You know, all my accreditation I have to give to the streets and of Chicago and the subway stations and the, you know, my crew and, you know, the battles with other crews, you know. So I was, you know, self-taught, you know, all my technical art techniques, you know, working with aerosol and, you know, homemade markers and mean streaks and, you know, and all that, you know, and above. But, you know, my thing is style, you know, and I feel like you can go to school and gain a lot of that, and you can get in corporate America and gain a lot of, you know, knowledge and money and wealth and monetary gain from, you know, the art world. But, you know, style is something that you can't get but from self, you know, and adversity, you know. So, you know, that's my thing, you know. You know, I'm big on style, and I feel like, you know, that's how Mr. Wiley, that's how he was able to win in the art world, and anybody for that matter in the art world that wins. You know, I feel like, especially African Americans in the art world, because it's funny because even when it comes down to art, we don't get our credit. You know, you have Picasso go over to Africa and study the whole African figurines and masks and come back and create cubism, and we still don't get our props for, you know, what we contribute to this world in the art, you know, diaspora. But, you know, I feel like the ones that has, you know, made it, you know, it's a style thing, and that's my thing, you know. I'm big on style, you know. People, you know, they you know, I go to some of these other groups, and, you know, they talk about the accolades, and I went to Pratt, and I went to so and so. And I'm like, man, that's all. Oh, you know, and I work for Coca-Cola and this, that, and the other, and that's all cool. You know, I'm not a hater. You know what I'm saying? You know, give people their accolades where deserved. But, you know, I'm really big on, especially coming from street art. You know, I'm really big on those that was able to get it from the bottom, you know, and, you know, make it to the top, you know, and it's all about style. Like, if you look at Basquiat, you know, I hate to throw that name out there because I'm so tired of seeing it and hearing it in The Crown and all this, that, and other, but, you know, even Basquiat was a thing of style, you know, and it's like, when I watched this movie, it was so crazy that, you know, the guy saying, man, Basquiat, your followers haven't even been born yet, you know, and it's like, you know, fast forward 20, 30 some years later, now you got a whole generation of people just, you know, big on Basquiat, The Crown, and this, that, and other. You know, I can't talk crazy. I incorporated in some of my pieces, you know, to give it that modern feel, you know. But you know, it all boils back down to style, you know. And I feel like that's our biggest contribution to the art world is style, you know. You even go back to the ages of perspective, you know, and you know, back to Picasso, he shook that whole angle of perspective up by coming with the cubism, you know, and it's almost like you look at African art as primitive, but for the most part, it's like there's so much style in it, you know. I heard the guy, he was talking about gold, you know, the color gold, you know, and it's just like, you know, the garbs from the kente cloth to the, you know, to just the scarring of the face, the tribal marks and all that. It's just like, man, you know, that's just one aspect of what we do. You know what I'm saying? You know, we come over here as slaves and you give us hard times and we create jazz. You know, so and then from there we create hip hop, you know, so it's all about style, you know, and that's pretty much it. Get a chance, check out HiQ. Instagram is my name, HIECUE, and you can also shop with me. I have a lot of wearables and I have a lot of art and stuff available on my website. That's HIECUEart.com, HiQArt.com, and feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, HiQ. Everybody, make sure you go and check him out, and make sure you check his Instagram and see what he got going on. speaking of helping people out and bringing and making it, Kehinde Wiley did make it, you know, and through that, his influence and also money, he was able to have residencies for artists. And Daryl was picked for 2021 in his Black Rock Senegal residency. So Daryl is a moderator with us today, and he's been sharing his story of how he got here, and he's an up-and-coming artist. So we're kidding him early. We're pretty much getting him early, and thank you for Kehinde Wiley for this experience for him, because he's going to be starting in October, and we're going to be following him and seeing where he's going with it. So also check him out. We have Travis and Sabrina on the stage. So what about this room made you want to jump in and give Kehinde his flowers? And if there's a certain art piece you're interested in talking about, you can PTR to it so we can check it out as well. So let's start with Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing well this evening. Thanks for bringing me up to the stage. And yeah, all I saw was Black History and Kehinde Wiley, so I definitely had to jump in here and listen to him, listen to the conversation. He's definitely one of my favorite living artists right now. I have like 3 or 4 living artists who I kind of get my inspiration from. So there's Kadir Nelson, Fahamu Peku, Tim Akamora, and Kehinde Wiley. And they're all portrait artists, and they all have very different styles and techniques. And it took me a while to even come across Kehinde. I've only noticed his work maybe in the past 5 years. I went to a museum, the Columbia Museum of Art in South Carolina, because Fahamu Peku was doing a show down there, and I saw these 2 small pieces. They were like little boxes with doors on it, and the doors were open and had these really detailed portraits that were just, I don't know, super realistic. And that was the first time I saw Kehinde's work, and I didn't think about trying to find him on social media or follow his work right then. But I think a few months after that, somehow I came across some images from his The New Republic show that he had, and at the time I think it was in Arizona or somewhere, and I just immediately fell in love with his style. And what drew me to him was the fact that he elevated us. He took these royal and regal Renaissance era images and replaced them with the black body, to especially his stained glass work. And because normally we see stained glass only in chapels and cathedrals, and it's reserved for saints and all this, but he put us in that same format. He made us as important and elevated us to the point of sainthood, where we glow and we shine, and you can't help but see the beauty in the black body. And so just following his work over the years has been a tremendous inspiration to me in my craft. Daryl, congratulations on getting a residency. I applied for it. It was really stiff competition. I didn't get it, but yo, congratulations, dude. I know this is going to be a life-changing experience for you. And but yeah, his work is amazing. Like I say, he's one of my favorite living artists. Definitely try to follow his stuff all the time, and like I say, he's a great contribution to Black culture as a whole.
That's awesome, Travis. Make sure you follow Daryl too. I hope Daryl. Do they have an NDA or anything like that? Can you share your experience?
I haven't signed an NDA. The only NDA I signed was that I wasn't allowed to say anything until yesterday. So, because I got the letter back in January. So that was the only.
Oh, wow. Oh, this thing. Oh man. So before we get to Sabrina, that's the question for you. How did you keep the secret, or were you allowed to talk to at least one person?
I didn't keep this secret. I just didn't put it on social media. My friends and family been knew. My job, I had to tell my job because I lived in Chicago for 4 years, and when I was living in Chicago, I was like really struggling financially. So the fear of always becoming unstable was a fearful thing for me. So as soon as I found out I got it, I instantly told my job. I was like, "Hey, this is happening. This is when I'm going. Will I be able to keep my job?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're not gonna fire you for like going for your dreams. What the hell?" So, but yeah, no, like my mom, my close circle knew. But it wasn't too hard for me to not really post it on social media or anything like that.
Oh my God. That sounds so incredibly hard. I also changed my photo to the 30 Americans exhibit that he had. Man, I can't remember the date. I got to see it in person again, y'all, at the Corcoran. I'm just really spoiled.
If I'm correct, the 30 American show was actually a traveling exhibition.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so it's for those of you who don't know, the Rubal family, who owns the Rubal, who runs the Rubal collection, they have a museum in Miami, Florida. The Rubal collection, they traveled an exhibition that was 30 contemporary artists at the time of the exhibition. 29 of the 30 artists were still alive. The one artist who was no longer here was, of course, Basquiat. I actually have that artist book because I saw the exhibition 4 times when it was in Detroit.
Yes, 4 times. I saw it 3 times in D.C., of course. And actually, that was when I first got introduced to Hank Willis Thomas. We're going to honor him another day as well. But yes, seeing his work several times and that scale. Can you see the people in here, y'all? Can you imagine seeing that? That's just hard work, okay? And we talked about him hiring a team now, but it's still, and then I also appreciate, I keep on bringing it back to the photography because a lot of times artists will plagiarize photographers' work and just paint a portrait, but he puts the whole process, it's a series of process that he goes through to get to this point. So, hey, Sabrina. How are you? And what would you like to give flowers to Kehinde Wiley or whatever you want to talk about?
I will say this. Coming from Baltimore City, growing up in Baltimore City, when I grew up in Baltimore City, it was a stark contrast to what it is and what it looks like now. And one of my favorite things, I went to the Baltimore Museum of Art, and it changed my life. And even though I became a nurse, looking at art, my son can draw, I can't, but I write poetry. And art is what gave me my ability to be able to do descriptive writing. Because what I see when I look at something may not be what someone else sees. Or they'll ask me, well, how did you get that out of that? Or how did that happen? Art just does something to me. One of the most peaceful places for me to ever go is a museum. The Smithsonian's in D.C. just takes my breath away. I can literally go in those museums by myself. I really don't like going with people, and I'm just being honest, because I don't talk when I go. I'm serious. It's like I'm a 3-year-old kid. I am mesmerized because that is what it does. And just to see beautiful pieces, just even sitting on the phone now, just looking at Daryl's picture, I'm like, I need a pen. I need a pen and a piece of paper because I'm going to have to write. And that's what art does.
And that's the reaction that artists hope that you get out of it. Oh, sorry, did I put you off screen?
No.
Oh, okay. And I know that's Daryl's goal as well. So we had our hour of praise to Daryl and Kehinde Wiley. I do want to open up the floor for any parting words that anyone would like to share before we close out for today. Day 3 of Black History.
I just want to say congratulations, Daryl. That is a huge accomplishment, and I can't wait to see where your career goes from here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I'm a fan. I'll be following, and I hope there won't be too much, secrets that you have. I know there's a process, but I hope you can let us peek in with you in October. And keep us up to date, please. I know. So also, are you able to go on social at all in October, or how's that going to work?
I should be able to do whatever I want. They haven't told me that I have any restrictions as far as what I can do as far as the internet or anything like that. Yeah, I'm just really excited, honestly. When I tell y'all my mission before October is for my eczema to clear up so I can take the best possible pictures while I'm in Senegal. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Yeah, this is about to be an interesting year because I just started a residency this week, and then I have that one in October.
Anything else you want to share with us, Darren?
Well, I guess I could just say I'm currently doing the Railboy House of Art artist residency, but that's based here in Detroit, which is a 2.5-month residency. It's normally 3 months, but due to the fact that COVID has come in here and slapped all of us crazy, it's a 2.5-month satellite residency. So making work from home, which is a struggle, but I make it.
Well, I just wanted to add congratulations to Daryl. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add congratulations to Daryl. I am following you now, so I will be following, and I am a nurse, so I'm going to inbox you and give you some tips on that eczema so you can get them fabulous pictures you want. I got you. Don't even worry about
it. And that's all, period. That's a great way to end. Thank you, everybody.
Pretty good job. And I used to post them on light poles around my city. I did that for 4 years. But I got to a point where I'm I got my own signature. I mean, what am I trying to say is I didn't want to just keep painting characters that have already been done already. It's nothing that's oh yeah, that's my piece. So I came across Sandra Chabrir on Instagram. If anyone knows who that is, her name's Sandra Chabrir. Sorry if I misspelled it or mispronounced it, but she does she's a painter. A lot of her subjects have these masks over their faces, but the masks are scenes from Marvel and DC. But what she does is she paints the tear mark around the mask. So I saw that at the time, and I was like, damn, that's pretty sweet. This is all painted. But me being already an avid comic book collector and already having damaged comics in my collection, I looked at her style and was like, damn, that kind of looks like ripped comic books. So then I'm like, damn, I wonder if I can make a picture out of ripped comic books. And I made my first piece and I posted it on Facebook, and that piece had more likes than any street art post that I've had prior to that. So I kind of came to a point where I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to start collaging now. And here I am 6 years later, still collaging and still trying to.
Yeah, I did see as Justin Yellen, because I think I came across his work maybe a little bit ago, a couple of years back when I was thinking about plexiglass, and he came up, and then I saw he has a whole factory of artist interns putting shit together, because the work he does is huge, and it's just it looks laborsome and everything, and that was just cool to see some of the behind the scenes of his work. But his work is fantastic, and sort of just I got to see it up close. So that one is definitely something I want to try to figure out how to see his work in person. And then the other artist you were talking about too, I think she's in the Dean collection, Swiss Beats' collection.
Yep. Yeah, she is super talented. Like I said, I saw her work and immediately started collaging just from the aesthetic of her pieces. And kind of find inspiration from kind of pull inspiration from a lot of people. There's a lot of talented people in the world.
You like Tristan Eaton as well. If you look up Tristan Eaton, he's like,
Yeah, I follow Tristan Eaton, man. He's super dope. There's so many dope artists. I like Nichos too. Nichos is pretty dope too, man.
Hey, yo, Paris, I'm trying to get over to your page to get to your Instagram right now. I'm gonna DM you a couple of links going back to the plexiglass concept, 3D idea. All of that work initially comes out of a concept called photostereosynthesis that was actually developed by one of the Lumiere brothers, the dudes who basically invented the moving picture. But they did some really fascinating work around that, specifically where he photographed on collodion plate and a different type of halide plate, but he photographed on those essentially through the depth of field of a large format camera. So he would focus on like the tip of the nose, then move the focus to the middle of the nose, back of the nose, cheekbones, eye, go back all the way like that. And then he took those plates, developed them, and then used a material called potassium chlorocyanide to essentially bleach out the non-focused areas. And then he stacked those plates together and essentially created the first, consider it the first holograms almost, but it's the direct inspiration for the work that we were just talking about. And actually the Getty Museum has the last remaining one. They don't put it on display, but if you're in LA and have enough time, you can actually request to see it. But I'm gonna DM you a couple of links showing some examples of it and how it is. I think you'll be fascinated by it.
Yeah, please do, man. That's like super dope. Like I said, I'm definitely trying to get more three-dimensional with my work. Just because I don't know, 2D is cool though. But you get to a point you're like, okay, I'm trying to do something else now.
You gotta try to check that out. You said the Getty Museum, if you ask them about it? Pluto?
No, sorry, I couldn't figure out how to turn my mic on. Yeah, it's something, it's better if you have one that you know at the Getty, obviously, like if you have any kind of contact there or something like that, because I don't actually know if they will take stuff out of the private collection just like on request. They probably will do it if you give them a whole lot of lead time, because they're really good about providing access for people doing research. So if you present yourself from that perspective and send an email, figure out who to contact, and like send over some examples of your work and maybe some a write-up about what you're doing, an artist statement of some sort, that probably will give you more luck. But yeah, it's at there's only one, as far as I know, there's only one remaining example of one of these pieces that I'm talking about. It's either that or the other ones are only in private collections and basically no one knows where they are. But the Getty in LA has one. And if you reach out to them with what I just described, you may be able to make arrangements with them. It may take months, but you may be able to make arrangements with them for a private viewing where one of their curators will take it out. And you won't be able to touch it or anything like that, but you'll be able to view it from all angles, look at it, really see how it's made, which would be an incredible experience, but it's something that pretty much never goes on display anymore because it still remains sensitive to light, so they can't really put it out.
Oh, that's so dope, man. Thank you, Pluto. Thank you, bro.
Absolutely. Thomas, do you want to link to that as well?
I definitely love that. I think, just like letting them know, like, more research purposes, or I can just drop your name. I'll be like, Pluto sent me.
I'm just lucky that I'm able to collectors who have some connections here. They're not going to know who Pluto Glass is.
I'm like, you don't know Pluto? What?
Hopefully one day, if we get to that point, I'll totally holler at him and be like, hey, yo, let's go play it together.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
Yeah, there's another dude. I'm like trying to pull all my inspirations from all my favorite artists and kind of combine them into my own skill set. But there's this other artist on Instagram for you guys to check out. I don't know how to pronounce his Instagram name, but it's TDEIN like Ninger, T.D. Ninger. I don't know. It's T.D.E.I.N.I.N.G.E.R. But his name is Thomas Deninger. He makes like these three-dimensional sculptures. Well, he makes like these sculptures out of like old thrift store toys. Like you look at his page, and you're like, oh man, that looks like a cardinal, right? And then like the camera zooms in, and you're like, wait, and then it's like Barbies and old thrift store toys. Like it's
yes,
that dude's stuff is insane. He's got like a bull head or something.
Yeah, dude. He did one of like Jesus, like a bass, so like it. If you guys are listening to me right now, like, go to Instagram, type in T as in Tom, D as in David, E as in Edward, I-N, N as in Nancy, I-N-G-E-R. Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm trying to, like, combine Justin Yellen with Thomas Deninger. That makes some crazy-ass piece. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, his work is definitely something I've seen before. That's gotta be crazy. Just to, like, I don't know if this Thomas has like a basket full of just like doll heads and paper clips and just random ass stuff just to sort of like work with, because like it seems like it's all based on color, so it's really, really interesting.
It's so crazy, man, because he'll set up the little short video, be probably about 30 feet out, and you're like, man, that's a sweet sculpture of a bird, and then he gets closer, and then has like a side angle. You're like, what the hell? Like, it's just the most randomest things in there. You're like, dude, how does that even make a picture of a bird? Like, it's so crazy.
Found art in general just seems like such a labor of love, because like Tom was saying, like, yeah, do you have a bag of just stuff? It's like, no, this guy's probably going out in the streets and picking through stuff and finding acts like all of the time.
Yeah, that's funny though, because when I started collaging and I used to do craft shows, people used to be like, oh man, like I have a whole box of magazines, like can I give them to you? And like in the beginning I'm like, yeah, for sure. Then like 3-4 years go by, I've just got like, like so many magazines, like it's ridiculous. That's why I'm like, man, I can't take on any more magazines or my house.
I know the fire department is going to catch you at one point. At some point, the fire department is going to lock you down and be like, nah, bro, you got way too much paper.
Oh my God, yeah, I've got content from like the 80s, like people give me old race car magazines. Like I just feel like one day I'll be, how you got that artist brain, like, man, I don't want to throw it away, but I'll use it one day for something. Like, I'll make it one day. But I'm like, yeah, I wish I need everything like categorized, but right now they're just all in, Tupperware bins, just waiting for me to sift through them.
You're wearing like an aluminum like foil hat and like cover all. I'm gonna use these one day, I promise.
Old as shit. Like if I shaking as I'm trying to chop up some comic pieces.
If I see you on that show Hoarders, I'm gonna like bust laughing. If you're on Hoarders and like your kids have to be like, Dad, you gotta get rid of all this tons of paper. You're like, no.
They're like, seriously, how attached are you to this? I'm just like,
this pile's name is Margarita, and this pile's name is Nina.
Like, seriously, like no joke. I'm up here laughing, but I'm like, damn, that could be like a real situation. Like sometimes, like I'll have OCD. Like my wife would be sweeping up stuff, and then like I'll just catch like a small piece. Because sometimes I'll cut out small pieces, right? But then like I'll lose them. So then like I'll find them again later in life. I'm like, oh shit, there's that Darth Vader head I was looking for, but it's like in a pile of shit she's about to sweep up. Like it's crazy.
Don't worry, I'm the same way with like paint. Like because I don't use every drop of paint in like a gallon bucket or even like the sample paint you get at Home Depot. I just have like a mountain full of just like old paint that, some of it's like useful, so I keep it. And then at the end of the year, I'm just like, I feel bad about myself. I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, what the hell are you doing, Thomas? What are you doing? You got so much paint going on. Get rid of all this stuff.
You're like looking in the mirror with a sad face, just like, who are you?
Yeah. coming out the shower after watching all that paint off, and like, who are you, Thomas? What's going on? Let's have a conversation with ourselves.
Hey, so you gotta have the talk with yourself. You gotta let go. I have a big box. If anybody wants it, I'm finally like, no, you're not gonna use this. Give it to someone who might want to use it. So you gotta let go, man.
Yes.
Yo, all right. So those links that I was gonna send to y'all, I don't know why, but Instagram is blocking me from sending the links. So this will be a little annoying, but I just dropped the links into Note and took a screenshot of them. So I'm gonna send you that screenshot. So you have to type this shit out, but you'll be able to see it.
Well, that's fine. Thank you.
Wait, I was checking your DM. What was that? What was the last part, bro? I didn't catch that. I was looking at Instagram, checking your DM.
No, I was just saying I'm about to try to send these links to y'all, but when I drop the links into Instagram, it for some reason just keeps saying failed. We try to protect our community. I don't know if it thinks that I'm trying to send you porn or something. I don't know what. But
damn, man, that plate is exclusive, huh? Shit, can't even look at it.
So I don't know what's happening, but so I'm dropping the URLs into the Note app, so it's spelled out, and I'm screenshotting that, and I'm gonna send you all the screenshots so you can just type in the URL and you'll get to it.
Hey, good looking, bro. Appreciate that, sir.
I didn't think it was gonna take this much work to show you this shit.
They're like, oh, you're trying to show somebody this plate? No, shut it down. Shut it down.
But yeah, in a few minutes you'll have the.
So I had a question that kind of like full circles back a little bit ago to like Paris. You're talking about you usually do like 8x10, which is around the size that I do. But then Tom's like, hey, go bigger. And I always had this like question: is like, does size matter? You know, especially like depending on what you're trying to sell. Should you try to go bigger with your work, especially like paintings and things like that?
For me personally, so I was already prone to making life-size pieces, during my street art days. So, when I transitioned to the collage world, it just made sense for me to make large pieces. But I guess it's not the same for everybody. But for me, the bigger pieces, well, when I used to do craft shows, right, I used to bring all my bigger pieces to the shows. I never planned on selling them, what am I trying to say? Like, I would love to sell my big pieces, but the way they're priced, I'm never stressed to sell them. I'm not going to sell them for $20 because I feel like I put thousands of hours in them. But I always used to like bringing the bigger pieces because they would always lure people to my table to see the smaller pieces. You know what I mean? Like, you got a little 8x10 on your table. It may be super dope and maybe your best work, but you have a craft show with like 30 other vendors. You're trying to do whatever you can to stand out. So that's why I started doing larger collage pieces so I could have them at my table because you can't not see it. You know what I mean? Like, you walk past, you're like, holy shit, what's that? And then I just baited you in. You know what I mean?
For me, it's kind of like I like those bigger pieces. I know because I work big anyway. I used to like canvas work. I think the smallest I go is maybe a 4x5 feet sort of canvas, but I used to do smaller ones. But like as I started getting bigger, it just felt like it has like this grand presence, like it's an actual individual in front of you.
Facts.
And it's like it just gives you something different. It has like an aura when you start to sort of go bigger, because then it's like you actually physically have to move around to sort of see everything, and you're able to get so much detail in sort of a smaller area. And when you sort of go big too, it's kind of like I said, like you gotta move your neck, you gotta move your head. You can stand like almost a foot away in front of it. And it's kind of like if it's like a 12-foot tall piece by 8, you gotta actually like it feels like you want to hug it and everything. So that's why I love going big. because it just has that extra element of feeling and having that grand presence in front of you when you're seeing it. And like sometimes when you see a piece in sort of like a publication or online, and then you get to see it in real life up close, if it's super large, you're like, man, it just has almost kind of like a more grand entrance versus for me, something that maybe you see in a magazine or you see online and then you see it in person and it's kind of like, 12 by 12. I think that's something that a lot of people said about the Mona Lisa when like you see it in, all these different places and you get to it, it's like, oh, that's it type of thing. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like I love going big, but I'm also like a muralist, so it's like I naturally sort of like that element of sort of going big. And like I said, I get to add a lot more into each of the pieces that I do because of the size. I'm able to use more tools, able to be a little bit more free whenever I'm going really big. And, it's like I'm not sitting in a chair, with a very, very fine hairline brush trying to get a small detail. So, like, when I'm doing things really big and I'm doing, like, a detail on a really, really large piece, it's like I can still use a regular brush. And, I think, like Paris said, like, when you stand back, it's like everything just comes together. And then when you get closer, you're able to see sort of like the actual physical brush strokes and, some of these like the physicality of the piece. So, I really like going big. But I'm like a size king, I guess, as you can call that.
Yeah, there's a concept, I can't really remember what it's called exactly, but it's something like the jewel versus immersion concept or something like that, and it talks quite a bit about the difference in terms of the experience that you can have and the impact on the viewer that you can have between having a piece that is essentially small and and it draws in the audience. It forces the audience to get all close and get all up inside of it versus an immersive experience that's larger. It's like you were just talking about, that's so big that you almost have to move around, and you have one experience viewing it from across the room where it all comes together in the created image, and then when you get up close to it, you just see blobs and splashes of lines and stuff going everywhere, made up the core component parts of it. But it's fascinating is a really good I'm thinking a really good comparison. Like off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Chuck Close's stuff, his giant portraits, and kind of how that works with that scale. You get up close to them, you see, how the marks are made. You get away from them, and you got these incredibly high fidelity, photorealistic portraits. And then when you compare that, if you ever have a chance to view a high quality daguerreotype, which is essentially the first form of photographic image. It's essentially an image formed on a silver plate. Daguerreotypes are small, and you hold them in the palm of your hand. The way they were meant to be viewed was the super intimate, where you grab the piece and basically stand in the shade of a window, and the light coming from outside scatters across the surface of it, and then you get this image that almost glows off of this metallic surface. And the funny thing is that daguerreotypes, as old as that is, this is something that developed around 1850. It's the highest fidelity form of photography that's ever been created. Modern digital medium and large format photography doesn't even match the fidelity of this. But you get the difference between holding something in your hand that's almost like a jewel that you have to handle in this certain way to get whatever you're supposed to get out of it, versus that experience of having the massive thing that you do actually almost feel like you can walk inside of it.
So I just want to butt in real quick just to say I'm about to step out so y'all can continue the conversation. But I just want to say thank you to everyone that's up here, all the followers I got. I followed a few of y'all also. But yeah, y'all continue on. I hope y'all have a good night. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Oh yeah, by the way, so I sent y'all that link to the Lumiere thing. If anyone else in the room wants that, just send me a DM and I'll send you the link. Awesome.
We appreciate it, bro.
Pluto, I love what you just said. I've never heard, it explains like that, and I feel like it makes a lot of sense that, your concept kind of lies on whether you're going to go big or small with the piece. And it's something that I've been thinking, like, am I doing stuff too small? And like Thomas, you called me out, a hard body. I was last night like painting with like a nose hair, essentially, super thin on like it's like 11 inches by 17-inch canvas, and it's like, you know, the thought of going big and having that immersive painting with like a personality does seem really drawing to me. But I also do enjoy like slamming in a bunch of tiny things into a tiny area. Like I work with needles for my job, so I'm used to dealing with like super small stuff. So like big is almost it's intimidating in a way.
It's super fun, but like even going small, like Pluto Glass was saying, like there is like a whole sort of concept to it. Like one of my friends, Joseph Martinez out of Denver, like he was doing like a couple years ago, he was like really into painting on matchbooks, and like the matchbooks, like he would actually do full-on compositions with like, you know, the fine hair, you know, one hair coat or one hair brush that, you know, you get like a fraction of a little drop of paint, and you're able to like do work on it, and like the work came out so good, but it was only because of the size that I was really sort of attracted to it and sort of intrigued by it, and it was curious, and like, you know, it could fit in like the palm of your hand, and like it was just like there's so much that that it's, I guess, it conveyed because of the size. And for me, it was kind of like I didn't know, you know, I knew you could do that, but like seeing it up close, it was like unworldly. So like when you go to those, I guess, two different extremes, it's kind of like you do have this sort of out of body experience, and you know, seeing something up close that's really small in the palm of your hand, like a miniature, can be really dope. And then having something that's super large in front of you, that feels like an entire sort of like other being, and it has like this energy to it. It's like there's something to that as well. But it's kind of like I usually like to go really big. But I haven't done too much of the small stuff, and you know, that's a whole skill set that you have to, like with fine hands, and you know, be able to have that sort of patience and everything.
Yeah, I got selective patience, Thomas. Like I'm A1 with the collage, but on the road.
Man, hey Gregory, I brought some of your friends. About a print of yours. This one.
I saw. Thanks, you brother. I mailed it yesterday, so you should have gotten the tracking in the mail. So thanks for the support.
Awesome. Yeah, super excited to get that. Like, I guess about 2 days ago, like we went through and just like shared what everyone had on their website to buy, and I was like going through buying a ton of stuff. So I get like almost 12 packages coming in the mail. Hopefully, there's no porch pirates around here. But I'm pretty sure there is.
I felt a little ridiculous posting it in the mail because you live like 2 miles from the print studio, but yeah, why not? So you should be getting it. Maybe tomorrow.
Awesome. Super excited for it.
Yeah, that was a really cool segment we did. So for anyone who wasn't there for it, I think Amrit was hosting that session. It took a full hour. We went through, you know, anyone who wanted to speak. The topic was, what do you have to sell that is affordable, $50 and under, and where can we buy it? And then we literally just went one by one through the room, talking about who's selling affordable art and where. It was this really amazing 1 hour session. Everyone just diving into everyone's Instagram and Etsy's, and everyone buying artwork from one another. So I hope we can do something like that a bit more often. It was pretty rad.
Yeah, we should definitely do that at least like once a week or twice a week or something like that, because, you know, I think a lot of artists really get, you know, sort of really good looks when that happens. And like I said, like I bought a few paintings and a few prints from different people and a t-shirt, and like half of it was from the UK too, so it's going to take a little bit longer, but it was like getting dope work from artists, you know, just starting out or emerging, and it's kind of like being able to collect people on like that scale. I'm like super stoked on, because it wasn't like I was just buying any willy-nilly stuff. It was kind of like when I went to the shop and, you know, I was like drawn to something. It's kind of like, let me actually purchase it because it's like under $50. And when people were purchasing my work, it was just like repurposing that income to purchase some other people's work. So it's like circulating those dollars in the arts community. I thought was really cool.
You know, man, if you want to buy something of mine every week, I won't fight you on that. So I'm all for it, brother.
Man, let me tell you something. Gonna hold you down and take all your prints.
Heck yeah, I'll do it.
I open to trades too. I remember some people were mentioning that. Anyone in this room want to trade a print for a print? Definitely hit me up. I'm definitely interested in that.
If there's any painters out there, like oil painters or acrylic painters, I actually patented a paintbrush holder that, if I'm not mistaken, my Etsy link is on my Instagram link, but I sell those for, I think it's like $20 listed on Etsy.
Yo, I'm trying to try and find it. Can you describe it? What do you mean a paintbrush holder?
Well, when I paint, I normally use, so I work in oils. They stay wet for a while, so you don't have to immediately wash your brush out. I know some oil painters like dip their brush or keep them in thinner or mineral spirits when they're not using them. But for me, I just let my brush sit out while they're not in use, because I'll have like, right now I'm actually painting live right now, so I have 3 brushes with paint on it, and I'm gonna go back to those colors, so I don't want to like wipe them off or anything. So it's like a tray. It's a brush tray where you can just set your brush on it, and so that it doesn't roll anywhere.
Yo, this is dope. I'm buying.
Yeah, so that it doesn't roll anywhere, and your brushes can stay there.
So much. You should see my station right now. It's just covered.
Yeah.
Dude, I just got excited. Like, I haven't even painted for a while. I'm usually a printmaker, but I can't do the work that I've previously been doing anymore. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get back into painting. And I was just trying to solve that problem myself. So thank you. You're going to get an order from me.
Oh, that's what's up, bro. And that's the thing. Like, it was just something I try to figure out. I'm always holding like 2 or 3 wet brushes. Like I said, I don't want to put them in the cup because they're going to get paint on the other brushes. I don't want to lay them down. They're going to roll everywhere. So it's like, how in the fuck can I keep my 4 brushes in my hand that I'm working with right now and just keep them organized? So I drew up a little print, and I made the prototype out of cardboard, and I just used that for like almost a year, and then was playing around with it again and just threw the idea out there to one of my friends, because he has a couple patents for exercise equipment that he developed. And I was like, man, I might patent this thing. He looked at it. He was like, you know what, dude, give me some blueprints and I'll make you a mock-up. And he cut the first like plastic version of it for me last year, like right before COVID hit. But throughout COVID, that was a little project that I was working on, is just trying to get the patents for it, find a company that can produce the product at a decent enough rate so I don't have to charge people so much for it. Because I've seen one other brush holder that's very similar, but they want like $75 for it. It's like, bro, I ain't got $75 for a brush holder. I can use a Pringles can, or I can use cardboard or something. You know what I'm saying? But for something that's durable, that's lightweight, there's no screws, no adhesives. It's just like friction locks together, and it's simple and it fucking works. You know, is really
it short enough? What's like the distance between those 2 pieces that hold the top end and the bottom end? Is it like short enough that you can put like pens on it, like microns and stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. You can hold a pen on it. So it's probably I think the width of it is just 4 inches. So it's 4 inches wide and approximately 15 inches long. So you can fit 16 single brushes on it. Or I got mine stacked up, and I just keep a few slots open for single brushes when I like the ones I'm working on. And yeah, so it's not very big, and I actually think I may make 2 more designs for larger brushes and 1 for smaller brushes, just so people can have a choice for it.
About to ask you, I'm like, yo, can you make me one of these that'll hold larger brushes?
Yeah, that's gonna be I'm going bigger next. That's the next one. It's gonna be shorter, Because most time when you work with larger brushes, you're maybe doing like 1 or 2 big brushes at a time, maybe 3. So I think I'll make a short one with like 5 slots on it, but big enough to hold like larger brushes.
It's like we're in Shark Tank for artists or something.
So Travis, what is your business model, Travis? How many people do you have?
I have no business model or business savvy at all.
Man, like, how was that patent process? Because I know sometimes, like, I hear horror stories because I try to get something patent and it's like I couldn't get it. But like, was it like easy for you to sort of go through that process because of your friend?
Yeah, dude, and help was the key factor. I couldn't have did it without him. Like I say, my friend, he designed 2 pieces of a workout equipment for a Canadian base manufacturer. He has like a workout bench that it jacks up like a car jack. It's the weirdest thing, but it works. Anyway, so when I started going through the process with him, he was like, well, first thing you need is a fucking patent. You need a design patent for this thing. And I'm like, okay, so how do I get that? He was like, call these people. And I'm like, damn, I called these people and thanks for the sale. I just got a Etsy notification. That's what's up, bro. But yeah, I called the company. They're based out of, I think it's 360 Logistics, and they're based out of Northern Virginia. And they were fairly easy to work with and straight to the point. Send us your designs, your information, and a description of your product. They're going to search the market and make sure that there is no patents out there that would, take yours off the market, and you just pay for it. And I got a 14-year design patent on it.
Congrats, man. That's amazing right there.
Yeah, I can inbox you the company's link if you want that.
I'm going to purchase one of these in a few. So definitely be looking out.
Yeah, that's dope, Travis, man. Big ups to you. That's pure black excellence right there, bro.
I legit just went crazy on it. Yeah, I literally just got my order, and I was like, I'm doing this right now so I don't forget.
Yeah. But that's the thing too, like this whole COVID thing is like, I've had that idea for a minute, for a while, and like I said, I made it out of cardboard and just used the cardboard. But it's so easy, it's so simple, it works well. But until COVID set in and you sit down and really think like, okay, what's the next move? Like, what's important, or what can I really do to, have an impact or something? And so I finally decided, like I say, just go ahead through with the process. And I've noticed, like, once this, just giving people time to sit down and evaluate their lives. What's important? What are you going to dedicate your time towards? What do you hold value in? And it's a bad thing, but there is some definite good coming out this little pause that the whole world has to take right now.
Yeah, man. I feel like there's a lot of people, who maybe gave up their art dreams years ago, and then COVID hit, and they had extra time to get back on that train, and some of them, found success. I know a couple people, who had lost their jobs, got into art. And are very successful with it right now. So a lot of good with the bad.
That's me. I used to work for special education as a teacher's assistant, and my job no longer exists. And I've always wanted to be an independent artist, and because of COVID, it forced me to. So now, like, I just put out my coloring book. I put it out around Christmas time, and I've sold over 150 copies in the past 2 months. So, I'm just giving thanks for my art right now because it's really paying the bills.
Okay, Patricia.
Congrats. Yes, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm working on my brand right now and just building up my business and just sticking to be an independent artist. My friend's like, you can go back to school, I'm like, honestly, I'm just gonna work on me and like push myself as an artist. I've been an artist for a long time, but I've never just focused on it. So now that's what I'm doing. I'm focusing on it.
Yo, that is dope, man. I felt that. I'm like, oh, yes.
Earlier today, we were in a room and we were talking about that. Like, this thing gave you a choice which way you were going to lean.
And so one woman said that that a lot of her clients and people that she had been managing, they went from full-time artists to now working during the pandemic. And then others said it was just the opposite and they have thrived. And so I was like, now people have presented with a choice. And during that time, that planetary alignment that just happened. So people have given a choice. You've made a decision. Okay, which way are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I have a thing I would love some feedback from y'all, or your ideas, thoughts, or whatever. If you don't mind, let me know if I can go into it a little bit. Go ahead.
Right.
Cool. I'll say, okay, so this is coming out of what a number of people just talked about in terms of the opportunity that the quarantine and everything like that has created, and the concept of having an art practice and not leaning into that for some period of time and then finding your way back into it. So currently, or at the beginning of January 2020, right before the pandemic and everything hit, I started developing some weird cognitive symptoms, stuff that was affecting my coordination, my mobility, my thinking, my short-term memory, my speech, all of that. Pretty just scary shit. And so I spent the last year getting tests and MRI after MRI after MRI, and they found a lesion in my left frontal lobe. So then there was like trying to figure out if it was a tumor or whatever, which they ruled out, thank God. And so it's just been this whole process of trying to figure out essentially what's wrong with me. And I've had a very dedicated practice for most of my life, and I'm now almost entirely, or actually entirely, unable to work in the way that I used to work, which was primarily intaglio printmaking, usually dry point. And I have issues now with connecting concepts, and my short-term memory is almost non-existent. I'm actually sitting here right now with a notepad, and I have to take notes, like almost on what everybody is saying, just to be able to connect the conversation and be a part of this. But so I was talking last night with a few of the mods, things like Freddie and Suzanne and Q and a few other people who were modding last night, and a lot of people in the room were incredibly encouraging about, you've had this year where you've been unable to really lean into your work and even do your work in a way that makes you almost, for me it feels a lot like questioning my identity as an artist, and am I an artist anymore? Am I able to do any of that? But people were very encouraging in terms of like both give yourself space to figure out what's going on and heal, but also explore that and find a way to find a voice that is informed by your experience rather than inhibited by it. And so I'm trying to do that now, and after talking to a few folks, we came up, after being encouraged for that, I started thinking about it, and I talked to my wife, and I'm going to reach out to, I think, Freddie and Suzanne and whoever else, and I think I'm going to set it up for Saturday. But my plan is to do essentially an event or a room or whatever they're called, where I'm going to have it set up, and it'll be a combination Clubhouse with an Instagram live for the visual, wherein I will essentially have a large canvas and a grid set up and come into, the room here set up for that. And anybody who wants to participate can essentially direct me and tell me exactly where to put a mark based on that grid in grid areas and subgrid areas. And it'll be CMYK based, so I'll be working with 4 colors. So we'll be working with the whole individual colors that are, viewed close up. You only see the colors far away. They make some type of form or whatever you come up with. But it's going to be the first time I'm doing anything for the past year. And it's something I'm trying to work out the logistics around right now. Obviously until Clubhouse, nothing like this has ever existed. But so I'm working on that, and I'm pretty stoked for it. So I'd love to get some feedback if it sounds like an interesting idea, or any kind of feedback.
Can I just really quick? I want to be on that live. I definitely want to watch that. That is amazing. And Pluto, you spoke to me in a way that it made me smile because we had very similar 2020 experiences. And I don't know if you currently ID as disabled, but definitely after my 2020, I'm IDing as disabled now. And I know it's hard to grieve the loss of things that you once had. For me, I found out that I had a degenerative joint disorder and I sometimes can't walk. I'm an ambulatory cane user, as well as like sometimes I can't even pick up a pencil, and it's heartbreaking and it's really hard. And people, what I've heard it relate to and it fits is it's kind of like grieving a loss of a person in a way. It's something that you've known your whole entire life, and at one point it turns around and it's gone, and you're like, wow, what is up with that? And just wanted to say that you're definitely not alone. I don't know if you ID as disabled. You are able to if you'd like to. As a disabled artist who has to kind of rethink their career path and really be like, okay, I can't necessarily stand for some paintings, and I have to sit, or tattooing is really hard on the body too. So I had to sit down and reevaluate yourself. But there is those opportunities, and you are going to find them in this live event. I think is a beautiful way to get yourself back in there. And we need more disabled artists to tell their story, and that's what I'm doing. With my work is showing, the experiences and the experiences of people now reacting to you as a different person, especially with invisible illness. They know you one day as this one person, and then now things are different and they're treating you differently, and how we have to, kind of go through that. So I would really love to see the work that you come out with, and I hope you keep it pushing.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I do at this point identify as disabled. And I'm kind of confronting the reality of that, where it's I've already spent a year with people trying to, a whole team of neurologists trying to figure this out, and nothing changing. And so there's that whole, like you said, there's a grieving process where you're almost, grieving your past self and confronting the reality that you now need to get to know whoever this new person is and figure out how this new person navigates through the world and sees the world and responds to the world. So yeah, it's definitely been a heavy experience, would be an understatement. But yeah, thank you for your encouragement. I just followed you, by the way. Shoot me. So here, in short, I'm taking these notes right now, but I have a real hard time putting stuff together. If you don't mind, shoot me a DM, even if it's just like a word or something like that, because it'll help me connect my notes and remember who you are and what we talked about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to be a part of that process with you. And if you ever, or if anybody, I'm a disabled advocate or disability advocate. And I post a lot about that as well. So if you have a hard time sometimes explaining things, I try to create posts and text posts and stuff that kind of boil down the disabled experience to make it, easily read by others. So if you ever want to hit me up to talk about that process too, I know it's hard to go through alone, and it's important to find your community.
That's dope. Yeah, I appreciate that. I will hit you up.
Yeah, I think that that event is an awesome idea. I'm actually live on YouTube right now, so thanks to everybody for chatting and adding content to my YouTube channel. But I did a very similar project where I asked my YouTube viewers quiz questions, and if someone answered the question correctly, I wrote a phrase, a quote, or saying, or whatever they wanted, as long as it wasn't derogatory, sexist, rude, racist, or anything like that. Whatever they wanted me to write, I wrote it on my canvas. And so the series comes out as more of a community piece or a group effort. And the same, with the thing you're saying, I want to be a part of that as well. If we can all use you as the brush to produce a piece of art, that'd be amazing.
That's exactly what I mean. The whole concept for me is I'm no longer able to sit in my studio or at a canvas or anything and cognitively
put the pieces together to make the piece. So I'm like, all right, you know, we live in this age of technology, and I've recently just discovered this app, which is like the biggest breath of fresh air that I've had since all of this started. And I'm like, that exact concept. I'm like, okay, I once controlled the brush or the scribe or anything like that. How can I allow other people to express through me? How can I allow other people to essentially be my brain, or what my brain used to be, and create something that's collaborative? And I'm excited about that from like the perspective of, I think as artists we think about that, like, who am I as an artist, or here's this artist that I'm interested in, and all of that. And then there's this idea where, I guess for me, I'm thinking about that idea of the collective artist. For like what I plan on doing is, whenever this piece is done, I have a whole set of notes about logistically how I'm going to run this thing, but I want to capture every single person, the identity of every single person who contributes in some way to the piece. And then once I'm going to photograph it, and I'll put it on IG and all that stuff, but I'll do that, and then I want to call out every single one of those people specifically as a contributing artist. And if it's something that logistically works, then I want to turn it into essentially an ongoing project. And so it would be a recurring thing that people can continue to contribute to and be recognized. The whole concept is, I'm calling it the hive mind. And so that's very much what it's intended to be. So yeah, and anybody who explicitly wants me to send you information once I have it set up and know when it's going to be, feel free to send me a DM, and I will follow up with you and let you know. I'm anticipating, if I can get everything together, Saturday will be the first one, but I'll be happy to let you know once the event is created.
I'm going to send you a DM. I'll hit you up on that.
Many people interested as possible.
Yeah, it's going to be so beautiful, man. I'm super, super excited for it. And, I think just getting everyone involved, I think, is something that is going to build more community and bring more people together. And, I'm excited for it. I'm just excited for it.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
It's also exciting to hear how people are how creatives in different disciplines and mediums are starting to bridge and unify this app with other platforms. So to hear someone saying that they were using this as an audio feature, and then I can add on to YouTube Live, and then you're going to be streaming on Instagram. It's really interesting, and my creative curiosity is piqued to see how this platform can enhance some of the other platforms we're already using.
Oh yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm already seeing this platform as being what a lot of the social networks might have aimed to have been, but missed the mark. And I'm like thinking this is so disruptive. I'm already Googling around trying to figure out how I can invest in this. I'm like, this is next level Google, Facebook stuff. So I'm in love.
When A160
Israel, we can't hear you. Can you move
Yeah,
forward?
you're muffled. You there, Israel? Israel?
Oh, he might have had his.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, yeah, when A160 goes public, like Andreessen Horowitz, when they go public, then that's it. That's the I guess they led the round, the first and second round in to the company. So
wait, can you go into that? Are you talking about the people who are behind Clubhouse?
Yeah, the people who led the investment round into Clubhouse, like Andreessen Horowitz. So it's Ben Horowitz and Mark Andreessen, and they're basically, they're venture capitalists. They already exited very large from companies a long time ago, and since then they've been leading. They've been like one of the I could say one of the most successful firms at helping people launch, things, and they've been invested in a lot of things. Clubhouse is now one of them. And so when they go public, like Coinbase is talking about going public, Andreessen Horowitz is talking about going public. So when Andreessen Horowitz goes public, if they create a public entity, then that would be that. And then I don't know what's happening. This maybe it gets acquired by one of the larger entities, but that doesn't look. It looks like the politics of that. Like if this got acquired by Facebook, I wouldn't feel comfortable. So it might kill the app.
Yeah, I don't want this to be consumed by the Facebook machine or any of that kind of stuff. Israel, would you mind sending me a DM with those names?
Yeah, no problem. I guess I'll find it. This is just all like when I was first on here. I would go in rooms a lot where there would be like where Ed Nussbaum and certain people from the team would be, and they would talk. Like a lot of people, there was a lot of talk about the app. Mostly, a lot of people about the app, and that's how I heard that. But I'll find it.
Thank you.
Israel, how about putting that into your bio? It'll be easy just to kind of go in there and we can see that. Thank you. It's Laura then.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll post it on Twitter, and then you guys can go to the Twitter, and everybody will be able to take it. Click the link, because if I put it in my bio, you can't click the link.
Cool. Yeah, I hope everybody's paying attention to this stuff and sending in feature requests to the Clubhouse team. My understanding is that they're pretty responsive about that and really want our feedback on how to better develop this. So that's a perfect example. I sent them one just about that exactly. Like, okay, you let us put an Instagram link in and Twitter. How about some type of URL link or something like that? There's just so much potential.
Francesco, I wanted to ask and excuse my ignorance around the disorder you described. I cannot imagine, also like everyone else, going through what you're going through, and it's just amazing. You're getting right back on the horse, which is fantastic, and obviously this is a supportive community. What I wanted to understand for the event itself, because you were asking, I believe earlier, for ideas or concepts or how to enhance, I wanted to understand, like, with the condition, what are you physically able to do versus not able to do, and how would you like, or what are you looking for us, other than obviously just telling you to make a mark on the paper? Are there other things that we could help with?
Yeah, solid question. So at the current point, I have fairly less dexterity. So in my previous work with dry point and all that, you're typically working with a diamond scribe or some other needle point type thing and scratching on zinc plate or plexiglass or anything like that. And if you look at my Instagram, you'll see my son.
Bruh, I'm just about to get up out of here, bro. I'm hungry as hell. I did 2.5 hours. I was gonna start a little bit earlier, but I had to run an errand after work. Yeah, I'm in the studio kind of late tonight, and now I'm hungry. But I did get a good bit done on this piece, so I'm happy. And I'll be able to ship some art off this weekend. I can at least ship grandma and baby off this weekend. I'll probably varnish that tomorrow after work. That'll be the first thing I do. Or not unless I get up early enough. I'll give it another day. I'll wait till tomorrow evening. I'll varnish that tomorrow evening, and it should be able to get shipped out Saturday. That piece will probably get shipped out next weekend. Yeah, I'll probably go have some dinner and play some Call of Duty for a little while. Catch y'all next time, yo. Peace.